Hello, listener, and welcome to this preview of our latest Patreon-exclusive episode. To continue the conversation and listen to the full episode, head over to the Beyond the Screenplay Patreon. The link is in the show notes. Hello, patrons, and welcome to this patron-exclusive episode of Beyond the Screenplay, the podcast where each episode we do a conversational deep dive analysis into a film. Today, we are talking about Mulholland Drive, the 2001 film written and directed by David Lynch. I'm here, of course, with the whole Beyond the Screenplay team, Trisha Rand.
Hello, everyone.
Brian Bittner.
Howdy to you.
And Alex Calleros.
Hi.
Okay, so to quickly recap what we're doing here, we're in week 2 of our Fall Favorites season. So this season, we are going to talk about some of our favorite movies that have appeared on our lists across our top 10 episodes that we've done. Some of them are classics we wanted to check out. Some of them are new films that we wanted to avoid but are having to see for the first time. Each of us have chosen 2 movies from our lists, and over the next 7 weeks now, we're going to continue through them. Last week, we talked about E.T., the Extraterrestrial, which was Trisha's pick. And today, we're talking about Mulholland Drive, chosen by Brian. Brian, tell me about Mulholland Drive.
I shall, and you are welcome, or I'm sorry, everyone. I have to go back real quick and talk about just like David Lynch in general and sort of me as a teenager in 97 when I was 15. Trent Reznor was doing some like sound, it was producing the Lost Highway soundtrack. And I think I was also going into music stores and seeing, you see like the Eraserhead poster next to The Shining, next to Scarface or whatever. And it was definitely this thing of like, though there's this thing out there that I need to be engaging with. So I watched Blue Velvet and Twin Peaks Fire Walk with Me and The Elephant Man. And then Lost Highway wasn't playing anywhere in my neighborhood. So I found a friend from, well, not a friend. I found some guy in my school who was able to get bootlegs of movies. So I got a VHS bootleg of Lost Highway, and that's how I saw it for the first however many times. And I really just loved that movie. I loved the soundtrack, and I was just like, there was this thing that I was appreciating about it where I was like, it's a whole mood. There's a whole vibes thing, obviously, in all these David Lynch movies, but it's also really entertaining to me. I'm just like, there's always just like sex and violence and comedy. And like, there's, it's kind of it's like dark Coen Brothers almost, right? In that way where there's just always something big happening. And then there was just for as confounding as his movies are, I feel like there's usually like a thing you can cling to, that you can kind of start to explore theme through it. So Lost Highway is literally like, at one point Bill Pullman turns into Balthazar Getty and is living this like different life, and then it's like, oh, okay, so it's about someone who like tries to pretend they're someone else, as happens again in Mulholland Drive. At the end, a thing that happened at the beginning of the movie happens, and you're like, oh wait, the beginning is also the end, dream logic kind of stuff. But I was like, there's something here that I can use to kind of dig into the meaning and theme of this movie. So I just found it compelling to rewatch and just enjoy the experience of watching, but also try to investigate what it meant to me and what I thought was trying to be said, and sort of in that art for art's sake kind of way, where it's there and it's not there to tell you what it is. It's there for you to tell it what it is, right? Fast forward 4 years later, and Mulholland Drive is coming out. I'm going to school in Philadelphia, and my friend Liz and I, we were both in the theater department. We had this class that ended at like 1 p.m. every day, and if you made your schedule right, that was your last class of the week on Fridays. So Mulholland Drive came out. We said, let's go. We took a subway down to this weird cobblestone street that we had to walk down to get to the theater. It was really cute, except for this like terrifying owl statue, like owl man statue that was there, which is just perfect. It's like very, idyllic, except for the horrifying thing, right? Yeah, exactly. And then we got to this theater, this like small, it's like the Ritz, I think it was called, art house theater that smelled like this really specific kind of artisan coffee that I like can still like bring to mind. And then we watched this crazy movie that was weird and funny and mysterious and scary and like corny, but then it's like, oh no, but you were doing that on purpose. I see what you were doing. Lynch is definitely one of those filmmakers where having the vocabulary of what a Lynch film is goes so hard into like watching another movie. So then we left and talked about it and spent the better part of the next week talking about it. And then Friday rolled around again and we said, you want to go again? I said, yeah, let's go again. So we took the subway, cobblestone, owl statue, and coffee, and second time. Next Friday, we went again. And I think it was around the third viewing where we were like, I think we understand what actually happened in the movie, like what the plot was. Like, not what it's about, not what it means, but I think now after 3 times, we're like starting to get a good sense of just like what the actual series of events was. And then on the 4th Friday, we were maybe able to start kind of dissecting it and figuring it out. And then I think that was I think we went 4 times, and then I think she was out of town, where then she went and saw it with a friend, and then I brought another friend to go see it at the same theater. And then a few months later, they showed it on campus. So I think 6 is the number of how many times I've seen this movie in either a theater or in a theatrical presentation during its opening run.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. And yeah, I just love it's again, I mentioned Coen brothers. It's like filmmakers who I enjoy the experience of watching the films, but also they invite me to reinvestigate, to kind of dig in a little deeper and try to figure out what is being said and why is that thing there and what does that mean and everything. And I just, it's something that I feel like I haven't gotten to do a lot in my adult life, is just have those movies that, one, are sort of dense and foggy enough to not be super clear about what they're about, but then on the other side also be entertaining and enjoyable for me to watch, that I want to re-engage with them. I've seen movies that are really confusing and whatever, and I'm like, cool, I'd never want to watch that again, you know? And then I've seen movies that are entertaining, but there's no question about what's going on. And I think the thing I love about Lynch and this movie is that kind of best of both worlds for me, which is something I enjoy experiencing, but something that invites me to keep thinking about over multiple viewings.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah. Foggy is a good word also for this movie. I feel like that's, yeah. Yeah. Well, so it was interesting for me revisiting this movie. So I think my first experience with it, I believe, Alex, was you sitting me down one night and being like, you have to watch this movie. Oh my God, this movie. And I think it was late and I wasn't really in the mood, and I can be like stubborn at times and decide I don't like a thing before at times, not all the time. And so, yeah, going into this movie, my memory of it was like, it's just a bunch of random scenes. Like, it doesn't mean, like, it's just so annoying. I don't understand. Like, my memory of it was just literally a cobbling together of nonsense. So it was interesting watching it this time and being like, oh, there's a plot. Like, even though like weird stuff is happening, I'm tracking a plot. And I don't know if I just wasn't awake enough the first time or what, but like there's actually a plot here that's happening. And so I'm watching the movie, and the experience this time is still very frustrating, as I can tell by rereading some of my notes. I still seem to have this sort of I've decided to hate it going on in my notes. For example, the is this dancing mean? The dialogue is annoying. Camera is annoying. This board scene with the coffee is annoying. Who is this for? This is room level dialogue. This cowboy scene is weird, etc. There's a lot of me like being very angry at the movie and not giving it a chance. And then they discover the body and they go to see the performance, and she opens the key and goes in, the blue box and all that stuff. And then there's scenes happening and I'm like, this is weird. I don't remember this happening like that. and then more scenes happen, and I'm like, I don't remember this happening. And I realized that I think what happened, Alex, is that we stopped the movie and I never saw the last 30 minutes of Mulholland Drive.
Which is literally the key to the entire movie and everything you saw.
Yeah. So I've had a misconception about Mulholland Drive for the past 12 years or whatever it is. And so I still find it frustrating and still am annoyed by the things that I'm annoyed about. But I get what the deal is now, because it turns out the ending is important and makes you that's the thing, right?
Right.
And so I have similar. It was just a very strange journey to go on of where I started at when I started watching the movie, where I ended, and ever since then, frustratingly been but what did that mean? And reading things, and I found myself kind of consumed by the mystery and the thinking about it. So I want to talk more about what's good and what's not good and what we want from art and all these things. But just reporting that my journey was a surprising one. And I appreciate this movie in a way that I didn't before. So
amazing.
That's me.
I can imagine if it was late at night and we started it, there being a point at which whoever was gathered there was we're going to stop this right now.
Yeah. I mean, I think it was just me. I think it was late. And then she starts angrily masturbating. And I think I was around the time and I was I'm going home. Anyway, Trisha, tell me about Mulholland Drive.
Dear God, call on Alex next.
Okay, Alex, tell me about Mulholland
Drive. Yes, I also, like Brian, really love this movie. I'm not a uniformly David Lynch fan. I don't equally love all his work. I guess nobody equally loves all his work, but I'm not drawn in by all of his work. This movie and Blue Velvet, I think, both hit this sweet spot for me of, like you said, Michael, having plot, having a thread to follow, while still doing all the Lynchian bizarre stuff, which includes, you mentioned the room level dialogue. And I think that's what's so there's something camp and delightful to me about Lynch, where he's so consistent with these things that it doesn't feel like The Room, which is clearly somebody trying to make a Hollywood epic and failing spectacularly. He knows what he's doing, and there's some artifice that he loves exploring with his actors and their acting style. And obviously he's casting people like Naomi Watts, who is an amazing actor, and having her play this, really campy, wide-eyed, Hollywood starlet. And then there's something I find delightful about that in all of his movies. These kind of innocent characters, almost out of an old Hollywood picture, being planted into really horrifying, surreal situations. But the reason this movie in particular I love out of his filmography is because, kind of like you were saying, Brian, you kind of get the best of both worlds. I get frustrated with films that are really artistically interesting, but just have nothing for me to grab onto whatsoever, and just leave me kind of hang it in an art museum, but I don't go to the movies for this. I don't go to a theater for this. Mm-hmm. This movie, it's one of those films on the first viewing, most of the experience, I was kind of in Michael's headspace of all right, another random scene, another random thing. What is all this? And that last act, that last third of the movie, or however long it is, which let me just come out and say it. I mean, I think how I interpret this movie is that the first 2/3 are a dream. Mm-hmm. The last third is her real life. And we get to see the context of, all the inputs from her life that created that dream world. And to me, that is amazing, because so many films that try to explore dreams, the dream world, even Eternal Sunshine, movies that I really like about dreams, aren't really about dreams. Eternal Sunshine is about memories. Inception is this kind of shared dream thing that's really crazy and technical. I think this movie, actually more than any other film about dreaming, actually captures, I think, what it feels like to have an epic, weird dream, where you've got all these inputs from your reality going into a story that your mind is crafting, but it has these weird asides. It has, dialogue exchanges that aren't quite right, but there's a dream logic to them, where within the world of the dream, you're yeah, this makes sense. Yeah, this is progressing. There's scenes like her audition scene which is so like amazing.
Really want to talk about that scene.
Yeah, but that also feels like correct for a dream, where like you dream this like really bizarre but like also amazing audition, but there's just all these elements put together that don't quite fit. Anyway, I don't know how you make a movie like that, where you would nail the dream logic, which is not logic, and I think that's why I love this movie and love revisiting it, because there's that ending is the key to appreciating everything that comes before it. And on the first viewing, I agree, it's really hard to appreciate what comes before it. Once you have that key, I think it's really fun to appreciate that first 2/3. I will say it does dip for me kind of towards the end of the dream sequence. Like, I wish it was a bit more compressed when they go to the Silencio concert. Like, that's a really long, drawn out sequence. So I definitely start to fall off there, but that last third gets me back and I love it.
Nice. Yeah, totally. Cool. Trisha, what about you?
Yeah. So this is my first time seeing Mulholland Drive. And as a rule, I would say Lynch is kind of just not for me. Although I was like looking back over his filmography and I was like, you know what? I really love Wild at Heart. Like, I think that movie's really great. And there are other things of his that I do respond to in places. Now, I will say I am a Twin Peaks quitter. Just quit. I just for sure quit. I literally watched like 3/4 of the first season of Twin Peaks. I like sunk some time into it and then I just bailed.
Right.
So who killed Laura Palmer? I don't know.
And you can watch the Twin Peaks movie first, like I did, which is a prequel, and which meant when I watched the series, I was like, I already know the answer.
Anyway. So that all of that being said, I was approaching this like a chore, and I very much tried to fix my mind as much as I could. But it's similar to you, Michael, where I was like, I have to fix my brain about this because here we are. And I found the first half of this movie, especially the first 30 minutes, really tedious. Like, and I think it's designed to be, right? And that's, I'm like, I see and I name that it's doing something thematic and I hold that and I respect it and I hear all of that. And also it's really tedious. I was like, what are these people still doing talking in this diner? This scene is so long. I don't know who they are. I don't know what's going on. Why do I care about any of this? And my partner was like, but the creeping dread. I was like, I don't care about the dread. I don't have any dread. I don't know any of these people. I don't know where we are, why I care. And you know what? I still don't know who they are. But anyway, like, it's designed to throw you out of it and off of it. And unless you're really determined to hang in. But like, I think that there is a lot to explore here. I will say I bristle a little at the Coen brothers comparisons here.
I'm not saying Lynch is anything like the Coen brothers. I'm saying the things that I like about Lynch and the things that I like about the Coen brothers are the sort of the things that are entertaining and the things that are moody and the things that are inviting me to explore the themes in very different types of filmmaking.
Sure. What I will say is that we often talk about theme as being a question. And I like movies that raise the question of a theme and then suggest an answer with their conclusion. If a filmmaker is not interested in suggesting any conclusion whatsoever and raising a myriad of questions, perhaps that all sort of circle a theme, I think that that's an okay way to approach filmmaking, but it's never going to be the one that like sinks its teeth into me. But I do think that that's what's going on here. I think there are a number of different questions about like performance and film and like the way that we project ourselves and like what is artifice, what is reality. Like there are a number of questions here. And I think some of the best scenes in the movie kind of like snapshot that into like one scene where it's like kind of looking at the theme pretty clearly in microcosm. But overall, I think it's kind of not concerned with suggesting any answer of any kind. It's just kind of like, what if? And then doing the dream thing that you talked about. And I think that's where Lynch always kind of loses me, where I'm like, okay, that was, okay. Mm-hmm. Which is how I feel about Mulholland Drive.
Yeah. There were moments where I felt Coen Brothers in I feel like the way that I feel like some Coen Brothers movies can wake you up to the absurdity of reality.
Yeah.
I feel like
Okay.
there were moments like that where I was like, oh, I felt this feeling before. Oh yeah, kind of like in the and then obviously used for very different things. Hope you enjoyed this preview clip. To continue the conversation and listen to the entire episode, head over to the Beyond the Screenplay Patreon. The link is in the show notes.